Hello, I'm Janna, and welcome to the Crafty Corner. Today, we're here for the live Q&A session for the August 2025 Card Maker Success Summit. I'm so happy that you're here, and let's take a little overview of the card for this time round. I'm Janna, and I'm happy to present you with Christmas Classics. As you can probably tell just by a glance at this card, I am most definitely a Tim Holtz addict. On this card, we have featured a whole bunch of festive dies, including layered plaid, trimetry, and festive sketch. For die cutting, I used a variety of Sizzix textured papers. And when we've got layers, I love using some texture. For the golden accents, I pulled in some craft stock from Ideology. Now, for the tree, you couldn't have a Christmas tree without a few baubles on it. So, of course, we pulled in some Ideology festive baubles. And we also added an Ideology sticker sentiment, a faceted star, and a border of decorative washi tape. In the background, we got to dive into some of my favorite Ranger products. We've got some distress sprays, and of course, a little magical dusting of distress spritz, hickory smoke. I'm looking forward to all of your questions, so let's get started. Okay. Rebecca, what die cutting machine tool are you using? So I'm mixing and matching right now. I am currently using a Vagabond, but I also have a Sizzix Switch. I love both of them, but right now the Vagabond is a little bit more compact and fits my crafting space the best. When I get to rearrange my class craft room, I'm hoping to put the Switch back on display. Thank you for the question, Rebecca. Joyce, so many amazing techniques used in this card. Oh, thank you so much. I love to play, and Christmas time gets to bring out all of that distress magic. If someone is just getting started with your techniques, what is your advice? Figure out what colors you love. Pick a palette that makes you smile. The biggest thing about starting any collection or any technique is choosing your colors. Pick what you love, and the rest of the magic is going to follow. I like to segment my creativity by diving in to techniques one chunk at a time. Like with this card, we started with the base layer, focusing on distressed spray stains to make a magical distressed background. Then we turned our attention to layering with dyes. If you can compartmental craft, you're going to build a whole wonderful library of techniques. Kristen, what other crafts do you enjoy? Well, this year I'm taking a new adventure and learning about screen printing. Something I've never done before. I'm usually not into textiles, but screen printing, one of the new adventures. I am also a soap maker, and in addition to making cards, I also love to create mixed media journals as well as do a bit of bookbinding. Thank you so much for the question, Kristen. I am also working on screen printing. That's where you're taking screens and images and putting them onto shirts using fabric paint. I'm actually wearing an example of that today. This was one of my own screen printed designs. Completely different medium, but lots of fun. Create with Katrina. This card is measuring. I could see that you enjoyed making it. I have you got more cards. I'd love to see more of your makes. Yes, I do have a couple of cards with me. This one, if you got the VIP, I will teach you all about how to make this one in that class. We've got a little poinsettia going on, and we're getting our grunge going. So more Tim Holtz, of course. That is absolutely my vibe. I was also very lucky recently to take the Tim Holtz collage course through Simon Says Stamp, and this was one of the creations that we made in class. So as you can see, I absolutely love collage as well. Thank you so much for the question. Suz, what do you do for downtime besides crafting? Well, I do love, of course, to watch a good show on TV. I'm currently binge watching Gilmore Girls, one of my favorite shows when the weather is getting hot, and I'm thinking about fall, which is my all-time favorite season. In addition to that, I love to read lots and lots of books. when I'm not crafting, book in hand, or a good TV show on. Thank you for the question. Rebecca, do you use airbrushing in your creations? No, I sadly do not know anything about airbrushing. I'm super curious about it, and that would be an amazing technique to learn. Viv, do you make multiples of one card or just one at a time? I am terrible when it comes to multiples. I cannot stand to make things more than once. My brain is usually going a mile a minute with crafty ideas, and I am terrible at trying to replicate my results. So, no, I am typically not a multiple card maker. I'm more of a one and done kind of gal. Thanks for the question, Viv. Oh, you love Gilmore Girls too? That's awesome. Such a good show. Ronnie, have you tried screen printing on a card? No, I haven't. Screen printing is a little bit tricky because the viscosity of the pigments that you're using are nothing like you would put on paper. Some papers are going to absorb that ink way too fast, and others it's going to kind of sit on the surface and not set in. I think it'd be pretty interesting to try, but it's going to take a lot of experimentation to find the right paper that's going to play nice with those particular inks. Great question. What are your favorite techniques? Oh, there are so many techniques that I love out there. My go-to at the moment has to be working with distress spray stains. I love to make a quick background, and distress spray stains allow you to spritz color onto a card very quickly, add some water, hit it with the Ranger Heat tool, and bam, you've got some beautiful backgrounds right away. But I'm also a really big fan of microglaze, and I'm getting into doing more resist techniques this year. How often do you craft? If I'm lucky, every day. I work in the field of mental health, and I frequently need a mental break from my job. So, crafting is the way to slow down the brain, to stay in a moment, and to practice mindfulness. So, if I'm lucky, every day, whether that's stamping, die cutting, or maybe just making a little sketch. Crafty, crafty I am. Do you have a color you stay away from? Ooh, that's a great question. Um, I am not the biggest fan of pink, and specifically dingy pinks. I try to stay away from them because I find that they muddy my color palette. But I think I really do play with all the colors in the color wheel because they all complement each other in some way or another. But I'm thinking like pre-made colors. Victorian velvet is one of the unusual colors in distress that I have yet to really experiment with. That was a great question, Crafty I am. Thank you. Joyce. What is microglaze? Microglaze is an amazing little jar of magic. So inside we have a thin paste. It's not very thick. It's kind of the texture of Vaseline. And what you do is you take a little bit on your finger and you rub it onto a card surface, and then you can spray and layer over the top of it. It is pretty neat that it will resist anything else that you put on there. It's water resistant, but the thing is, after you've put it on and you've done some magic over the top, and if you've used a Ranger Heat tool, the heat is going to evaporate the microglaze, and then the water resistancy is going to be gone. So then you could layer in addition on top of that. It's a very picky medium, but I find the results are pretty cool. Thanks for the question, Joyce. Are you happy to see oxides in mini form? Well, of course I am. How could I say no to these? Portable oxides? More crafts to travel with? I was beyond happy when these came into the line. So, of course, I got them as soon as I could. I love to craft on the go, and vacation for me is not vacation without craft supplies. And I have to tell you, trying to decide which full-size ink pads to pack in my backpack of crafty goodies was challenging. And I did not like having to cut my palette down. But with these in mini form, I'm expecting that I can take the full range of oxides and regular distress inks the next time I go on vacation. Ray Wade, can you tell me more about silk screening? So, Silk screening, if you can draw, you can put almost anything you want onto a transparency and use an image to create a silk screen. Silk screening is a large screen. You add a chemical emulsion that's going to act as resist. Then, using light, you take a transparency that has a black printed picture on it, and the light will burn through there and create a negative. It's kind of odd thinking a negative and positive space, but when that negative space opens in the emulsion, you can push paint through it to create an image on a t-shirt. Thanks for the question. Christine, is there a way to tell the difference between colors that may look the same to someone with eye nerve damage? Oh, I don't know. I think for colors, the best thing that you could do would be to label everything and maybe even subcategorize by color family. If you know your color theory, then you know that cool tones will play nicely together, just like warm tones. So you might need a crafty friend to help you sort out the different color families. That is a really interesting question. Thanks for that. Magwoman. Hi, Jana. What are all the spray bottles behind you? Oh, these over here, those aren't sprays. These are re-inkers. I have got the complete re-inking line for all the Tim Holtz products. This is one of the oxides, and over on this side, these are spray bottles. Here I've got my collection of distress spray stains and oxides, but I love having these right in the main frame because they make a pretty snazzy background. Thanks for the question. Joyce, when do you use oxide inks versus distress oxiders? Sprays and oxides? I think it depends on what you're trying to do. If I want to stamp and smudge, I'm going to go for the oxide inks, but if I'm looking for a more fluid background, I'm going to be going for the sprays. Now, the biggest thing to keep in mind, if we're talking, for example, about sprays, stains versus oxides, these sprays are more opaque. This is pigment based, while this is dye based. If you want to be able to layer and see things through your backgrounds, like maybe you stamped an archival ink first, you're going to want spray stains so that you can see the images below. If you're not really worried about that, or you just like having images peeking through layers, then oxides are great. So opaque versus transparent, pigment versus dye. Thank you for the question. Gina, do you use gel printing for backgrounds? I'm currently experimenting with gel printing. I love gel printing for oxides. I think they transfer very nicely, but I'm still at the beginning of that explorative journey, and I can't wait to play more because gel printing I think is pretty darn cool. Thank you, Gina. Amy, what is your favorite crafting tool? Hmm. Well, the one tool I can't live without has to be my Ranger Heat tool. If you're playing in the world of distress, you know about layers. And if it's layered, then you want to heat it because I am not a patient person and I'm not going to wait half an hour for my layers of paint or ink to dry. So the tool I reach for the most has to be my Ranger Heat tool. Can't live without it. Great question. Crafty I am. Do you have problems with nozzles clogging? Hmm. So on the distress sprays and the distress oxides, I've never had a nozzle clog. Those have been pretty stress-free. The spritz, however, and the distress seasonal pearlescent sprays, I found those do clog, but I'm chalking that up to mostly user error. When I don't shake them well enough, the pigments can easily clog in the nozzle. If you look at the bottle, you're going to see that there is a bit of sediment at the bottom, and part of the liquid is clear. If you don't shake up the sediment down here, it's going to clog in the sprayer. And I have yet to find a way to unclog those sprayers once they're clogged. But the main thing is you shakety shake and make sure everything is thoroughly incorporated, then there's no reason this should clog. But if it does, the good news is Ranger does sell replacement sprayers. So just make sure you give these an extra shake. What's your favorite color combination? Okay, right now I'm absolutely digging Mermaid Lagoon with peacock feathers and a dash of picked raspberry. I love jewel tones, and those remind me of mermaid colors. So that is my go-to color combination at the moment. So that would kind of be like a pink, a Caribbean blue, and a vibrant teal. Arlene, the spritz requires a lot of shaking. It sure does. But if you ever caught one of the Tim Holtz Lives, there's a really cool nail polish shaker that you can get on Amazon that will take some of the stress of shaking if you have any medical issues with wrists or you don't have time to shake. It's a nice little shortcut. So check out Amazon if you're looking for a little shakety shake machine. What, where do you look for inspiration? Of course, the Tim Holtz Lives. I love those. That's where I get most of my inspiration from. And I frequently look back into some of the old ones because just having someone to play along with and to hear someone talking about techniques, that really sparks my imagination. And then I can go down my own path and try different things after getting one idea or remembering a technique that maybe I haven't played with in quite a while. I'm very technique based. So all of my ideas are usually based off a single technique. Like, let's say smudge stamping. That's the technique. Then I can pick a stamp set and create a theme around that. And then I can go through my many piles of embellishments and put a card together. Crafty I am. Have you designed your Christmas cards yet? No, not quite yet. I'm still waiting to see what's going to come out this year for Sizzix, and I'm hoping there might be something for Stamp Temper. I don't know, but I'm kind of waiting until I have a better idea of what crafty supplies will be around. But I am planning to do a 12 Days of Making series launching sometime in December. So I usually don't get too far of a jump start on Christmas cards. Also, I'm really bad at sending out Christmas cards. Thank you, Crafty I am. What music do you listen to when crafting? I don't listen to music when I craft. I'm more of an audiobook person, and I'm currently listening to The Founding of Valdemar by Mercedes Lackey. Music doesn't really get me into the crafty mood. I prefer to have a Tim Holtz video on or an audiobook. Those are the things that inspire me when I'm making. Loretta, Janna, love your work. I'm dabbling with alcohol ink and interested in dilution shimmer paints. What do you use to get a shimmery look? For shimmer, I'm always reaching for Spritz, a distress pearlescent crayon, or the distress seasonal mica sprays. That's where I get my shimmer from. But I gotta say, I have tried the Dilution shimmer paint, and that is pretty darn shimmery too. So there's lots of options for shimmer. But if you want even more shimmer, I can definitely suggest going for some gilding. Val, oh my word, love that book. Oh, cool. Me too. I absolutely love Mercedes Lackey. I can't wait for her to write more in the series. Crafty I am. What project do you have on your table right now? So, just last night, I was working with the new Oxide Minis, and I've been playing around with some distress watercolor stamping. And since we have minis now, we can color and stamp at the same time. Taking the little stamp pads, you can kind of pre-color your stamp, give it a good spritz with your sprayer, and then you get these really cool results. So, completely playing with the minis at the moment. Thank you for the question. Mary, your wall behind you inspires me to shop. Oh, enjoy. And of course, happy crafting. I love a good inspirational wall, and I've seen these in a few other craft rooms, and that inspired me to put the wall together. Thank you, Mary. Thank you so much for joining me here today at the Crafty Corner. If you're looking for more crafty inspiration, you can find me over on YouTube at the Crafty Corner with Janna K. I'm also on Instagram with the same tag, and I post daily pictures over on Instagram, and you can look for weekly Friday videos. Speaking of which, one just launched today featuring Distress Oxide Minis. Thank you so much for joining me here today, and until next time, happy crafting.